joining. I think we're going to have some latecomers. I'd like to invite my fellow wonderful panelists to join me if you're comfortable with doing that. Sit anywhere you'd like. I know we're going to have some latecomers, and that's okay. And thank you to all of you who braved the streets to come today. I have experienced firsthand now Boston traffic and also the parking situation because of the marathon, so thank you for finding a way. And also to all our friends in Zoom for joining us. My name is Linda Lowe, and I'm the Executive Director of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, our US section. And everyone who's here now, I hope you're comfortable and settled in, and if you can't see us, feel free to move your chair so you have good line of sight and all the things. I am so happy that we're together. I will introduce my fellow panelists, tell you a little bit about WILPF, and then get into this conversation that we wanted to have today, which we called this event, we called it the Social Justice Spectrum. Where do I stand? And how can I have more impact? Because I think a lot of us are asking ourselves this question these days. But before I start to talk a little bit about WILPF and get into this conversation with each other and then with you, I want to introduce to my right, amazing King Downing. He is the Director of Healing and Justice Program based in New York for American Friends Service Committee. And we actually did this panel in New York together last month. And we had such great feedback, we thought, well, let's do it together in Boston. Yeah. And to my left, Peyton. This is Peyton's first panel, so let's give her some love. Peyton Durkee goes to Wellesley and is a union advocate, was a union leader. We'll get into that at her former job. I'm going to tell us a little bit about that adventure and how that got you into mobilizing. Yeah. And Loie Hayes, climate justice warrior locally. I think some of you may already know her. And on the board of Boston Climate Action Network. Yeah. So we have sort of like a very, eclectic group assembled before you today. I think I'll just tell you a little bit about WILPF, but before I do that, who here has heard of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, known as WILPF? Okay, fantastic. A little bit about us. We were created in 1915. A woman named Jane Addams, a social worker. She's known as the mother of social work in Chicago, and a bunch of other amazing women got in a boat, met in Europe to protest World War I. So imagine at that time, a bunch of audacious women who were told they shouldn't travel, all the things, traveled to Europe to protest World War I. So WILPF, we are anti-war at our core. And since then, we've grown. We have sections across the world in 40 countries, from WILPF Palestine to WILPF Brazil to WILPF Japan, and of course, WILPF here in the United States. And I also want to give a huge shout out to who here's heard of Emily Green Balch? Yeah, not as many. So she's a Bostonian, and she was a co-founder of WILPF, executive director, just a legend. And so we at WILPF are advocating to have her story known more here in Boston, her memory and her history and her leadership, at a time when we believe that women's leadership, women's rights are really being, and our feminist allies are really being not silenced, but pulled back. So we think it's important to tell the stories of our women and our feminist allies who are doing this work, and especially those that came before us. So that's something we're doing as well. What I want to say is WILPF does intersectional work. Before the word intersectional became the mainstream, the WILPF women were already talking about how war impacts human rights, how war impacts economic justice, how war impacts climate, etc. So we're doubling down on that, and what we're also doubling down on is analyzing power, who holds it, how to shift it, and in particular, cross-generational power building. So that's what you're seeing here, right here. Everywhere we show up now at WILPF, in the moment we're in, we believe that cross-generational power building is so key. So I'll talk about that a little bit more. So that's a little bit about WILPF. You're welcome. We invite you to join us. Later, I'll put some handouts out so you can learn more about us. But now I'm going to get to why we're here today. So this panel, we called it the social justice spectrum. Where do you stand? How do you have the most impact? Because I think so many people are asking that question today. How many people in this room have had friends or family members who, for the first time, maybe attended a protest, or for the first time called a senator, or does anybody have friends that are doing that for the first time? Yeah, me too. Because people, they're hungry to do something right now. And I think this thing called activism is maybe new for some folks. So what we're saying to people is, at least at WILPF, is whether you've been organizing for decades or you're new to organizing, you belong here, you belong in this room, you belong with all of us, and there's a place for you. And also, I think people are really grappling with these titles. Am I a peace builder? Am I an advocate focused on policy change? Am I an activist? And that's like bold and loud. And at WILPF, we're saying you don't have to be bold and loud to be an activist. I mean, you can be bold behind the scenes. There's space for all of it. Am I a feminist? Am I just one of these things? Can I hold space for all of these things? And in particular, in the moment we're in, how can I show up differently? Because the world we were part of a conversation yesterday about not just the wars abroad, but what we feel like is war at home. How can we show up differently against this war at home that some of us have never experienced, but some of us, you've said to me, we've experienced this before and we're going to get through it again. But as newer folks to it, we need to learn from you. So with that said, I'm going to just kick off this fireside chat conversation. I look forward to hearing what resonates with you after we've had this conversation. So my first question for our panel is, tell us a little bit more about yourself and what's the one big thing you're focused on right now? Tell us a little bit more about yourself and what's the one big thing you're focused on right now. I'll start to my right with King.
Well, thank you everybody for being here. I like high energy events, and so I'm going to encourage you. So I'm going to ask everybody to make some noise here now. Make some noise. Make some noise. We're going to have to make some noise to make some changes here, so we should all get our energy up. And I think we should have gotten that on camera. Maybe I'll do that, get that for you. So I'm King Downing. I'm the director of the New York, New Jersey Healing Justice Program for the American Friends Service Committee. It was set up by the Quakers around the same time WILPF was set up. So we're really sister organizations that go back to World War I. Our original function was to help people who did not want to be drafted to fight in World War I. And so the organization was set up then and has been doing that ever since. I got a thumbs up here. Anybody here heard of AFSC? Oh, okay, good. Anybody here heard of the Quakers? Is there anybody who's Quaker or Quaker adjacent here? Okay, good. So you know what our principles are, and so we are an abolitionist organization. That's going to come up in one of the later questions. But what was our first question?
What's the one big thing you're focused on?
Okay, so my project focuses on two main things: mass incarceration and policing. And we're dealing with the prison industrial complex, and probably know the statistics. For the most, we have more incarcerated people than anywhere else in the world, and the racial disparities are off the charts in terms of that. Some of that came out of the end of slavery in the South. Some of it came over from England, where the police were mainly enforcing the, quote, lower classes. And so what we're doing in New York is we are trying to find ways to reform the prison system, to have it easier for people to get on parole, to give more power to the investigative bodies who are looking into prison problems. We've had a rash of deaths in the state prisons. There have been 24 people who have died on New York City's Rikers Island, which is the largest mental health institution in the country. Thousands of people, half of whom have serious mental illnesses, or a quarter have serious mental illnesses, and half of them have serious mental illnesses, and they're not getting any treatment, and they're ending up incarcerated. And the reason why we push for reform, I'm going to name from time to time some of my heroes, and in this case, it's a shero. Anybody know the name Angela Davis? Okay. So Angela Davis says we constantly remind ourselves that we are abolitionists so that we don't settle for reform. She doesn't say we don't push or fight for reform, it's that we don't settle it, because you can't make systemic change without reforming a system or showing people how futile it is to try to reform the system. So that's pretty much our work now. At some point I'm going to talk about another part of it, but I will just introduce right now Ophelia Burnett is our New Hampshire Healing Justice Advocate. She's a multi-talented person. You can see she's videotaping all of this as a backup to all of the rest we have. And we have some special guests who are on their way here, and we'll talk a little bit more about the policing aspect of our work later.
Thank you, King. So Peyton, same question for you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and what's the one big thing you're focused on right now?
Hi, everybody. My name is Peyton. Like Linda said, I'm currently a student at Wellesley College. I'm a non-traditional student. I'm a Davis Scholar, so I'm 27 and I'm finishing up my bachelor's. And before my time at Wellesley, I worked at a Massachusetts cannabis dispensary that was actually sold, right as I began working there, it was sold to one of the largest cannabis corporations in the United States. Change of name, change of little bit of everything, all the beautiful art removed, etc. But about a year and a half into, or 2 years into working there, some of my coworkers, including one of my coworkers who had been in multiple unions, was pushing for us to organize, saying this is out of control, it's inconsistent, and it needs to change, and we can actually make it change. It's not impossible. There's things to be done other than standing and complaining, and which feels good sometimes. But and like we can make this tangible. So with that, myself and my coworker Ron became some of the core organizers. We organized about 30 of our coworkers. We won our ratification vote to form a union with the UFCW, which is the United Food and Cannabis Workers Union, an offshoot of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. And we won our vote in May of 2024, and myself and Ron we were part of the bargaining committee where we bargained our union contract. We sat at the table with some of the higher ups in our company and went back and forth for faster time off accrual, a raise in pay, a guaranteed raise at guaranteed time every year, and implemented health and safety committee, because that is a huge problem in retail dispensaries and also in cannabis manufacturing, an even larger problem. And we ratified our contract. Actually, it will be 1 year since it was ratified tomorrow. So wonderful. I was very, felt very safe to say goodbye last August with a contract in place. But now that I'm a full-time student, my focus is on academic knowledge and absorbing as much as I can. At Wellesley, I'm a English and Peace and Justice double major. So within the Peace and Justice Department, I'm taking courses like conflict negotiations and nonviolent direct action, which is something I'd really love. I'm kind of passionate about focusing and centering my learning on right now. So while union organizing, we did things like a March on the Boss, which was like a 5-minute work stoppage where we declared our unionizing, and we had the police called on us, and they were there for all of 5 minutes and said goodbye. We organized a hand billing campaign to get people to leave 1-star Google reviews, to push the company to, meet at the bargaining table a little faster. That definitely upset them. But my passion now is learning from those who came before me in unions and just in nonviolent movements to see how we can fight the system without violence, essentially. and doing this by kind of a method we talk a lot about, the concept of a moral jujitsu, using the adversary or the oppressor's strength against them. So whether that's making them look ridiculous, that is responding nonviolently, that is, I guess, essentially like gaining the support of others by making that oppressive group look as terrible as they are. And as a proud union woman, or previously, I still consider myself like a union woman, but it's all about solidarity, because there are more of us in this movement than there are of them. Even though they hold the power, in solidarity we can cultivate it and push it and push back. So my focus is on absorbing right now, and then this summer I will be doing some internships with the Peace and Justice Department. Likely also like cannabis-related education, or cannabis carceral education in Massachusetts is hopefully my goal. Still forming that, but that's me.
Of course. Thank you, Peyton. I loved all of that. And you know, when you said use the oppressor's strength against them to make them seem silly, who here saw the pictures and images of the giant frog costumes protesting outside the ICE detention centers in Portland? Yeah, that makes me think of that, like make them seem silly, right? Yeah, let's do more of that and bring joy into what we're doing at the same time. Yeah. So, Loie, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and what's like the one big thing you're focused on. I know you told me earlier that's hard because, of course, everything connects, but let's give it a try.
Yeah, well, my organizing home is Boston Climate Action Network, and I've been doing that for 20 years, earlier on staff and now as a volunteer. So climate, to me, is the foundation of all of our problems, because if we don't have a place to live, then we can't have decent working conditions, et cetera. And as a parent, I am very conscious of the fact that your generation is going to have to struggle a whole lot more globally for finding that place to live, and being able to survive the storms that are coming. So that's my core commitment for the rest of my life, is to continue to work on climate. Now, with the proto-fascist regime that's in power, surveillance has become the thing that I am learning the fastest on now, and I'm organizing around. I joined up with, I come out of the gay and lesbian movement, and I joined up with a bunch of friends to form Old Dykes Against Billionaire Tech Bros. We were like, we're not going to, be in a lot of meetings, talking, organizing coalitions, et cetera. We want to be able to be comfortable, we want to be able to be safe, and we want to do direct action to target the people who are facilitating the goddamn DHS, ICE machinery, and who are profiting from the Trump corruption, and who, frankly, would like the rest of us to disappear so that they can have their imperial little island communities somehow. It's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous, but it's also everywhere. For years now, we've been saying racism is the groundwater that underpins, all of capitalism. Capitalism is the air we breathe, and we can't separate ourselves from it. Well, now surveillance is everywhere. Technology is everywhere. And it's extremely difficult to figure out how do we find some leverage on that machine. So we've been researching the companies that are in Boston that make the surveillance cameras, like Flock Safety, that do the drones that are killing people in Gaza and Iran, et cetera, like Anduril, which has an office in the Fenway, and trying to find out do we have any leverage point on these corporations? Do they have municipal contracts? Do they have state contracts? Are they in the Home Depot and Lowe's parking lots? Yes, they are. That's what I'm really organizing around now, is the surveillance industry, the tech bro billionaires, and trying to find a way to be a monkey wrench in their gears and expose them and slow down slow their roll.
Thank you, Loie. I'll answer it quick myself and then move on to the next one. What am I focused, a little bit about myself and what am I focused on right now? Well, I think my background is a little bit different in that I come to this space from, I used to work for the International Red Cross overseas, supporting humanitarian response. And in that role, I've identified very much as the advocate. You know, how do we influence policy change at both the local and the global level? And then for a while, I was a peace fellow at an educational institution facilitating dialogues to decrease polarization in communities. So I really identified with, I'm a peace builder. And then I stepped into this role about 14 months ago because in, you know, the Orange Regime 2.0, I just felt like I have to be more bold. And again, that doesn't mean me yelling at the top of my lungs. It means me stepping into a space that I'm uncomfortable with and learning from folks like all of you and learning how to build community and lift others and mobilize against the horrible things that are happening. And so what is the thing I'm focused on right now? Well, as executive director at WILPF, the thing I'm focused on right now is continuing to build and grow our community and create a safe space where, like I said earlier, whether you've been organizing for decades or you're new to organizing, you feel like you have an activist home that you can come home to learn from and to contribute to locally and nationally and globally. So that's 100% what I'm focused on right now. Yeah. The next question that I have for all of you, and you know, want to invite you to ask yourself this too. How are you showing up differently right now in these times? Maybe it's not different. That's a good answer too. But if you are, again, I started at the top with these unexpected and times of constant chaos and turmoil require us to, you know, show up differently. And so how are you each showing up differently in this moment? What does that look like for you? I'll start with you, King.
Good question. There are two ways to answer it, because in one way, I'm showing up differently from the last round, but it's meant going back to the way things were in the beginning. And when I first started, we hadn't had the word for it yet, but it's come out since, intersectionality. We didn't have a word for it. We just meant, you know, unity, collaboration, coalitions, working groups together. So we're coming back to that, even though the term now exists and it didn't before, because the billionaire bros have gotten control of so much that they're affecting everything, and we can't fight in silos. In the years since the 60s and the 70s, the issues have separated and people have gone into various sections and they're fighting their fights. Now, I'm going to quote another saying. Anybody know the name Stokely Carmichael? Okay. Somebody want to say who Stokely Carmichael was? Oh, your hand went up so fast, I think you were the first one. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. He was. He wasn't known as much for that, but he was known for another organization that he was part of before the Panther period, when students first were moving from civil rights. You can't answer. You're on the panel. This is the audience response time. I wanted to say something about the Billionaire Boys, but I didn't. I'm with you on any moves you're making against them. Plus, what do you think of her button? I took a picture of it because I want one of those. So somebody else want to say something about it? It wasn't SDS. What was the organization? She kind of said it. Well, who was SNCC? It wasn't a candy bar. Who was SNCC?
Student Nonviolent Organized Committee.
Great. Okay, look at it. They did it simultaneously too. Now it was, in the beginning, it was the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, but they later changed their name to the Student National Coordinating Committee because the violence they were met with down south had them rethinking violence. And when I say rethinking violence, not, we're going to go attack them, but some people don't consider self-defense as part of violence. Self-defense is a form of violence, but it's been an acceptable form of violence. How many people here, if your nephew, your child, your grandchild was being grabbed by somebody, how many of you would actually result violence in order to prevent that? How many people would do that here? Not saying everybody would. So it's an acceptable form of violence, and so they changed the name because of the way that they were being treated down south. But Stokely became the president. He was part of the bus boycotts, the sit-in movement, the voter registration drives, and all of that. The reason why I bring him up is he said, if the people don't organize themselves, conditions will. So the conditions of the Orange Epstein regime have changed to the point that all of us need to come together and support each other, look at the tactics that are being directed against others, knowing that they're headed for us. So even though our work has always been with traditional policing, we're seeing what ICE is doing. We're seeing that ICE is doing what's been done to our community forever. And instead of waiting for it to come to us, we are engaging with the immigration programs. We are doing Know Your Rights workshops for our immigrant rights program in New Jersey. We have organized a legal observer chapter of the National Lawyers Guild to be present at the detention center protests, because even Newark's mayor and a congressperson got arrested out there. So we're looking to support them because we know, after seeing Trump's Project 2026, which talks about pushing and supporting police, and his executive order that says that the Civil Rights Division is no longer going to represent people who were killed by police, but it's going to represent the police. So we know it's coming. So we're supporting groups so that when it comes to us, we'll have the support we need. And that means not only issue intersectionality, but gender, sexual orientation, immigration status, race, religion. All of these groups now, we have to open our doors, and not to say that every group is going to have everybody in it, but we have to build alliances, and that's what we're working to do, to build alliances for self-defense.
Wow, it's powerful. Thanks, King. Yeah. Well, Peyton, I know we had a huge conversation. It was like 3 weeks ago, feels like 3 years ago, about your union advocacy. And so I'm going to take this question here, but you can also take it somewhere else if you want. Based on the things you learned when you were becoming a union leader, how has that shaped or influenced how you're showing up today, differently today in this moment? Yeah.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I think, is the experience and the success that we had at my dispensary, and now that is now unionized. Is it empowered me. It gave me the confidence to know that, like, I'm not helpless, and we are not helpless, and it's 30 people, it's one store out of hundreds in the United States, but it is different. It is change, and it is better for those 30, 35 people there. And allowing myself to kind of believe in myself a little more, to say, like, okay, I'm a drop in the bucket, but a drop in the bucket fills the bucket up higher. It's not for nothing. And I started organizing to improve my work life and the work lives of those around me, dropping pay, really inconsistent disciplinary practices, people getting fired for basically no reason, et cetera. But being able to kind of create solidarity myself with just a few, 5 of us coworkers starting, has, again, empowered me to push forward and to know that, like, I'm able to create movement in that way. And so now, rather than having an opportunity fall into my lap, so to speak, even though I was putting in the work, It was of circumstance, something that I needed and that we needed as coworkers. But now I have those tools and I have that empowerment in seeking out where I'm needed, seeking out where I can use my leadership skills, my ability to disrupt, my ability to possibly agitate, and my, I guess, just knowledge that I've cultivated from that to say, okay, I know what I needed, but what do others need? Where can I be found, or where can I kind of, I guess, join in? And instead of like bring the solidarity of folks to me, where can I stand in solidarity with others? And that includes like getting involved in on-campus protests against visitors on campus, speakers who are upholding large corporate, or that are heading large corporations that are directly sending, money and supporting money to create weapons, to create, to essentially support also those corporations that are in direct contact with those billionaire tech bros and the ultra wealthy, and letting our school know that like that's not who represents us. That's not who we want to be as students, and we're not going to just stand. And it seems almost trivial sometimes when an institution is so large that the speaker comes anyway, or something may not happen the way we'd like it to, but not giving up on myself and not giving up on the people around me, and knowing that they're here for the same reasons that I am. They're standing next to me for the same reasons, and maybe administration didn't cancel XYZ, but they know that we weren't happy, and they know this now going forward, and anything is better than standing idly by. So kind of continuing to apply pressure wherever I can, and knowing that I'm able to do that and that it works. So finding those opportunities now in a different sphere from retail, working to a very large educational institute. So kind of redirecting my advocacy.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton, you make me hopeful. I mean, really, I feel like we all need a shot of Peyton every day. Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, your energy and like your passion. I get tired. I feel tired in this movement or the work, and like I feel better just hearing you, So thank you for that. Yeah. Loie, how are you showing up differently right now?
Well, it's a curious blend of both increased urgency because the situation is so dire with Trump attacking on all fronts. Also, a feeling of traumatization from that and disorganization from that. ADHD-ish. Where do you look now? Where do you fight now? What lawsuit do you file, et cetera? And also, because I'm older, certainly a new focus on building the intergenerational base, if you will, base building across generations so that I can really benefit from the insights and energy that younger people and movements that are led by younger people bring into the activist ecosystem. And also, I can turn over more responsibilities to those people who have more energy. And being older, I find I want to reflect more, and also I want to nap more. But that reflection is important. It's an important task that I can do that you cannot do, because you do not have the experience of 60 years of activism. And I can make those connections between the Panthers and the abortion rights and the trans movement, et cetera, and then hand off my Rolodex to y'all who are coming up. Oh yeah, what is the Rolodex? Yeah, right, exactly. My contact list, my contacts file, um, so that you can form a panel that actually does pull in people from all the different neighborhoods that need to be engaged in, et cetera. So yeah, urgency, and also taking more time, I think, to reflect rather than just step into traffic, which Lord knows I've done often enough.
Awesome. I think we need a dose of Lowy every day too. I mean, this is awesome energy. Thank you. I'll answer it and then I'll move us on. How am I showing up differently? I think I'll answer it by saying instead of showing up differently, I'm leaning more into connecting as humans in everything I do. Because I really feel it myself, and I hear it from people in my community and other communities, this feeling of disconnection. This feeling of like constant stress, this feeling of, oh, I can't, there's so much coming at me, like you said earlier. So now, I've always done it, and now I insist on doing it even more. If I'm leading a virtual Zoom meeting, I literally started off by saying, let's do a popcorn. Let's bounce around the Zoom room, tell us your name, and like one thing about you. It might be like, what'd you eat for breakfast today? Or what's your favorite pet? Or, like just to connect as a human first and ground with each other one-to-one before we jump into like, what's the protest? Or what's the policy? That type of thing. Or even when I'm connecting one-to-one with humans, I mean, I met King for coffee today, and the first thing I said was, how are you doing as a human right now?
That was a good one.
Yeah, and I'm very intentional, even if we're busy and tired, of starting with that first. So it's not different, but I'm leaning into it way more. That's how I'm showing up differently, so to speak, yeah. The next question I want to ask you all is, because we are so overwhelmed and there's so much coming at us, is there a tip or a tool or a practice that's helping you all like get through the work? Because we know there's so much to do. So is there a tip or a tool or a practice or a network, fill in the blank, that's helping you move through the work? Yeah.
Another great one. I spent a lot of time thinking about this one. And I don't know if you all were into science, but they say that the electric light bulb, it looks like it's going continuously for us, but it's actually alternating 60 times a second. So when I was thinking about this question, I was alternating between what do I do personally, or what do I do movement-wise, personally, movement-wise. So I just kind of made a list of both of them. And the first one was to engage youth as equals or superiors, because they don't take as many naps. And they have a lot of energy and can go for a long time. And I cut my teeth in the Black Panther Party in the Young Lords era. People don't realize that their average age was 19. And look at the influence they had. So what are older people doing, holding on with their cold, you're gonna have to pry my cold, dead hands off the movement, when it was a youth movement that brought about all the changes we had. So people need to let go, and they need to find the fresh, new, energetic generation, and they need to pass it on and get back in the back of the line and be helpful. Because if we don't, it's gonna happen when we're napping almost all the time, and we won't have prepared them. And I just want to give one quick story about how we have underestimated youth. I do Know Your Rights workshops, and I have done them mostly for high school, some junior high school, college, and then fully aged adults. I was asked to do one at an African-centered elementary school. And I said, okay, well, I've dealt with 6th, 7th graders, so I can deal with 6th. And the teacher said, no, they're 2nd graders. And I'm like, how am I going to do a Know Your Rights workshop with second graders. So I said, you know how if you're in school and you want something and you're trying to figure out how to get it, you might ask the teacher. And if the teacher says that she can't help you, where might you go next? And said, we might go to the principal. And I was trying to explain the First Amendment. And I was saying, so where would you go if the principal couldn't help you? They weren't really sure about that. And I'd say, you'd go to the Board of Education. And they're downtown, and they're controlling everything that the teacher does, everything that the principal does. And the First Amendment would let you go down there and say, we want more pencils, we want more papers, we want more books. So they seem to be resonating with it and giving examples back. So the class was over, I went to the teacher's lounge, and I was chilling. And the teacher comes in, and he's looking at me like this. I can't believe what you just did. I was like, oh, well, what, did I screw up? What happened? He said, I was late coming back from lunch, and when I went into the room, they held up papers that said, we want recess, we want recess. So anybody who thinks that they're not ready, you're tripping, because that showed me that second graders are ready to learn about their rights and how to do something about it. And we're saying, well, we'll bring it up in high school maybe. We'll wait till, by then it'll be too late because the dark side will have gotten to them. So let me just go through the rest of the quick list. Stop falling for the hype from the orange Epstein regime. There are some radio and TV programs I have a lot of respect for, and every time he says some dumb shit, they headline with it. Oh, he's going to take Greenland. Oh, we have an expert here to talk about how that would violate international law. Why are you giving him, oh, he's playing Jesus Christ. Oh, and so now we're going to have a religious expert on. Every time he drops something, we drop everything. Think how little union coverage is being gotten because every time he makes a dumb statement, everybody rushes to it, and they're doing it on purpose. So stop falling for that hype. The next one is just, this is the personal one. So I relax. You might say I'm crazy. I relax by looking at documentary films. I like the visual, I like the audio, I like the combination of music, but I'm also learning about things. And yesterday we talked about a documentary that was on Al Jazeera on what the Cubans did when the US boycotted them. They did two things on the workers' level. This would be an interesting one for you. They said, we're not going to be able to get any spare parts anymore. We're not going to be able to do anything to keep our factories going. You workers, what can we do to create the things that we need? And they started talking about, oh, there's lumber yards, there's pipes, there's little screws. We can make some machinery out of this. We can carve it up. And so that's how their factories survived. The second thing they did was they went into the neighborhoods and they set up weekly fix-it workshops. Not you come in and we'll fix it. You come in, we'll show you how to fix your iron. People learn how to fix lamps. They learn how to fix their washing machines. They didn't need the dryers because the clothes were hung up to dry, so they all learned how to take the dryer off, take the motor, and how to turn it into other things. One guy started using the motor from the dryer to make duplicate keys. Another one used it to grind up herbs and spices. Some of the women used them to grind up herbs and spices that they grew in their gardens with pots that were made from the bins that the dryers were in. So we have to look at things in that way, and that's what the film did for me, and now it's given an idea on how we can get our neighborhoods engaged. 'Cause in my neighborhood, people don't throw it out. They just keep it in the house somewhere hoping that someday something will happen, that maybe it'll turn around. So that's an idea. Last one, this is a big one, and it's going to call for some audience participation. I went to a law school in Maryland, and I was going to give a talk on what my organization did about rights. I came in early, and the students were in there were so down because Trump had been elected for the first time. They were so down that I tore up what I was going to say, and my whole conversation was, this has happened before. It has happened a bunch of times before, and every time it happened, we not only won back what we had lost, but we won new rights that we didn't know we had. And there have been 6 of those. Slavery, Jim Crow, the 1890s, the years of the robber barons, when the trusts were broken up, and out of that people won the right to a 6-day work week and a 10-hour work day, then the 8-hour work day. Then in the 20s, the unionization movements really picked up. In the 40s, when we look at FDR, FDR was no great liberal. He was a prep school, Ivy League school buddy, but he told his corporate billionaire boys, probably millionaire boys then, if we don't bring in social programs, we're going to lose the country. Social Security, unemployment. What other kinds of things came along from that time? Did you raise your hand? Oh, okay. Well, child labor laws, all of these rights that we got that didn't exist. And then in the 70s, we won again because of Ralph Nader, he was a neighbor, Ralph Nader, and the Consumer Rights Program. So we have won at least 6 times, and this is no different. He's not worse. He's not worse than Johnson was. He's not worse than Nixon was. He's not worse than Reagan was. He just blabs his mouth. So I just want you to repeat after me. I'm going to say, I know that we will win, and I want you to repeat it like we will win. I know that we will win.
I know that we will win.
I know that we will win.
I know that we will win.
I know that we will win.
I know that we will win.
Good, and keep saying it like you mean it.
Wow, King. We need a jolt of you every day. And I'm so lucky because I do get a jolt of King every week because we're collaborating on some good stuff. Yeah, yeah. Well, okay. Whew. Peyton. What's a tip or trick or tool or practice or, that helps you move through the work because there's a lot going on,
I'm really resonating what you said about human connection and people connection, and thinking a little bit back to organizing, my very favorite thing to talk about. But something that was so simple yet so incredibly powerful was just talking and getting people agitated and letting them know what's going on. Sometimes I feel like I'm at a very, very liberal university. I have a lot of very liberal friends, very progressive friends who are ready, or hopefully ready, to engage in this work, in social justice work. It almost feels like I'm speaking into a vacuum sometimes. So one of the first things is not being scared to bring up difficult conversations, because a lot of times, this is, I think, quite an American thing, is we're out of touch. The news companies are controlled by the wealthy. The news that we're getting is diluted, is filtered. It's hard to find sources that are legitimate and that are important, I guess, like you were saying, with just bringing up such trivial issues when we know this man is a fascist. Like, how many times do we have to hear? What can we do? But, while organizing, getting to know people I really didn't think I would get along with, people that I maybe irritated me a little bit in the workplace, but getting to know what upsets them at work, what irritates them, and driving that nail in a little bit, poking at it a little bit, letting them know, that's ridiculous, that's unfair, that should not be, and getting them impassioned, because like I said, a lot of people that I know agree with me on a lot of these issues, but it's getting them impassioned enough to move, to mobilize, to do, to act, is the important part. And that's what kind of, while union organizing, what we did was informing people, I'm so sorry you had this experience, that's ridiculous. Did you know that they're also doing X, Y, Z? Yeah. That's not in our handbook. That's not beneficial. That's harmful. And did you know we could do something about it? That's kind of the big thing, is yes, I am around a lot of people that share my values, but kind of digging a little bit, informing them a little bit more, kind of probing about what, we know things are bad, quote unquote, but what is bad and why? What is the root? And how does it affect you? And then letting them know, how does it affect other people? And when people are faced with injustice, they have quite similar reactions, we would hope. Similar reactions of, that's terrible, that's awful. And when people are feeling impassioned, they're willing to move. And as someone who's organized, kind of knowing the first steps to take, once I find people that really align with my values, that want the same things I want, how do we get them up off their feet? How do we get out of this the social media vacuum? Is something that's been difficult for me, because I'll post things that I find, information that I'm finding that is like incredibly either eye-opening or disturbing, that I want people to know about, that I want to know, did you know this is happening in Minnesota? Did you know this is happening overseas? Did you know this is happening in Gaza? Like, we don't see it. We wake up and go to sleep in Boston, and it's quite easy here. But once people know, it's easier to kind of to light that spark. And not falling into hopelessness, I think, was something that you mentioned as well. Like, actually, I had the honor in one of my courses to speak with a man who lives in Hebron in Palestine right now. His name is Isa. And I asked him a question that's like, a lot of America doesn't know or understand what's going on, or it's so easy to turn a blind eye. What, like, with an administration that is so, I guess, well, so supportive and so apt to fund and partner with genocidal bodies, how do we, like, what can I do? Little old me, I guess. And he said, everything students do, we see in Gaza. Everything you do, art, posts, videos, online, and just not stopping. It just made me think, like, just not stopping, not telling myself that something doesn't matter, that something is trivial, because anything is better than nothing at all. And just the way that I am finding correct sources online, or sources that I do trust, and that I'm sharing them just the way I'm coming across them, people I may not even know come across them, and then they're aware, and then they're angry, and they want to move. And we can connect. And today on campus, I had a fantastic breakfast with some of my my classmates, talking about how there's not enough action on campus right now, and they were all feeling the same way. And if we didn't talk about it, how would we have known? And it's something we're going to touch back on, something we're going to get together tomorrow and have a conversation. So it's just, I don't know, touching on humanness, I think, as well. But
Thanks, Peyton. I want to lean a little bit into the social media conversation just had. When we did this panel in New York last month, one of our panelists was an amazing human named Jordan Zaslow, who lives here in Boston. She founded and runs a nonprofit called Her Bold Move, which exists to get women elected into office at all levels, local, state, national. And when we asked her this, and she wanted to be here, she was actually scheduled to be here tonight, and life happens, so she couldn't join us. But when we asked her this question, what's a tip or trick, or that's helping you move through the stuff? She said, I work to get women elected to office, so I get a lot of online hate. She said, I limit myself to 15 minutes a day on Instagram. That's it. She said, because we are not built to capture this much hate. So I limit the hate that I take in. I mean, she doesn't only get hate, but you can imagine, right? So I want to lean into that whole social media conversation and how she's doing that to help her move through the work. Yeah. Okay. How about you, Loie? What's a tip? Yeah, tip or trick you can give us?
A couple come to mind. One is prioritize in real life opportunities, because we live so much in the cloud now, in a virtual world, communicating with people who we're not seeing us. And we as humans need to feel seen. And we only really learn by encountering things that are unexpected. And in the social media world, we encounter things that are expected for the most part. So seizing the opportunity to do in real life, and that's very difficult for, anybody who's trying to organize meetings these days. To get people to leave their homes is really difficult, but to find reasons to bring people together in person. And then remembering we're all part of a virtual choir, and as we're trying to sustain an entire movement of music, we all each have to breathe at some point. And we can hold the note collectively while still each taking a moment to breathe. And it's really important to take that time to center yourself and to realize that you can't do everything all the time. And the last tip and trick that I really like to emphasize as a former amateur athlete, find your place in a team. That again, we humans need to feel purpose and belonging, and if you can find a team where you feel like, okay, I don't have to do everything. I have to cover the left wing, and that's all I have to do. I know other people are covering the back, other people are covering the right, other people are covering the front. I just need to do the back, the left wing, and that's enough for me, And I'm going to get good at it. I'm going to understand it. I'm going to be there when the team needs me, because I know we're all moving the ball together, and we don't have to be all touching at the same time. But I know that I'm part of a more powerful thing than I myself can be, because I'm part of a team.
Yeah. Thanks, Chloe. I want to lean into that a little, then I'll give my answer, and then I'm going to pass this to King to welcome some special folks that have joined us tonight. Going to lean into that a little by saying, you're part of a team, and you don't have to be the whole team by yourself. When we did this panel in New York, a conversation that came up from the crowd was, there's so much, how do I move things forward on all fronts, on all these different issues I'm passionate about? And the collective wisdom that the panel gave back to the audience was, hey, to your point, you don't have to do it all. Pick that one or two thing that you're passionate about, focus and move that forward, because everything is intersectional. So if we're all working on different issues and we're all moving it forward step by step, eventually it's all going to intersect and have greater impact together. So that was I just want to kind of lean into that. And then a tip or trick that I'll share that I've been using to help me move the work forward is two things. The first thing I'll say is I find myself reaching out to people and organizations that I never would have before, because so many people are pissed, across all kinds of different issues, racial, age, gender, So I really find myself reaching out and really happily surprised when the response that I get back from folks that maybe would seem like unconventional allies and partners, the positive response I get back where it's like, yes, let's do this together. So just reaching out to people and folks you never thought of, which you already just said, Peyton, right? People that maybe you thought didn't have something in common, people that maybe kind of irritated you, there's room for all of us to come together right now. And the second trick or tip I'll say is like many of us, there are moments when I get pulled in the internet when I'm trying to find research about something, and I get sucked in and I'm lost all of a sudden in the information void. So I've really learned to pick up the phone. I know that's crazy these days, who uses their phone, and call 2 or 3 people that I know way more about the topic than I do. And I say, this is the issue I need to know about fast. Give me 10 minutes, what do I need to know? And I kind of triangulate that. I call 3 different people that I know come from 3 different perspectives, and that grounds me beyond the good stuff and the crappy stuff I'm finding online. So that's a trick that I have. Okay, we have one. Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, no, I was just going to say I can build the introduction to the last question.
Okay,
So
great.
we can keep it moving.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Well, I just have one final question that I'm going to invite the panel to answer. And then I'm going to invite all of you to, if you'd like to, take a little bit of time to get to know each other in the room, reflect on, what's resonated with you tonight that we've said, or, yeah, who you want to lean in with. But my final question links to the title of this panel tonight, which is the social justice spectrum. Where do you stand? Are you a peace builder? Are you an advocate? Are you an activist? Are you all of it? And how do you hold space for one, some, or all? So King, I'm going to start with you.
All right. So the first thing that came to mind when I saw this question was, I'm an abolitionist. Am I alone? Are there any other abolitionists in the house? Okay. Aha, see, that was the trick part. So are there any slavery abolitionists in the house? Okay. So we've abolished slavery, right? So we really don't need slavery abolitionists, correct? No. Okay. Where is slavery still? Someone said everywhere, it's true, and then someone said in the prisons. In what way? 13th Amendment exception. Slavery has been banned except as a punishment where a person has been duly convicted of a crime. So slavery is still going on in the prisons. So we have an abolitionist movement. The Abolish Slavery National Network is an organization that's dealing with that. I invite you all to look us up, the Abolish Slavery National Network. A new round of legislation is coming out, and we are, Ophelia is as part of it for her work in New Hampshire. I'm dealing with it in New York and also with the National Legal Committee. And it may come up in your state or the state of somebody you know or love. The second abolition is prison. No, I already said prison abolition. I said slavery. Prison abolition. Yes, it is prison abolition. Any prison abolitionists here? Close? In what way?
In what way?
Yeah.
We have far too many people in prison. Well, first of all, sometimes they're not even guilty. But if they're guilty of whatever it is they were accused of, it doesn't, it shouldn't, prison is not the way to cure the problem. There are countries, mostly in Northern Europe, that I know of, that treat prisoners very differently. They treat them more the way that's what's his name? Trump's friend who was killed in prison. Epstein was let out of prison during the daytime, I understand, and then he just went back to prison to sleep and then come out again the next morning, etc. He did that most of the time that he was in, where was he, South Carolina or where he was.
So would you abolish the prisons?
We don't need as many as we've got.
So you'd
And
keep-
Certainly we've got prisoners in the ICE jails or the ICE facilities. Sometimes they're just offices that people are still put on the concrete floor to
Okay.
sleep, etc.
So just, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you
We've
finished.
got prisons that aren't supposed to be prisons.
Okay. So just a term, those who have been inside use a different word now. They don't say prisoners, they don't say inmates, they say incarcerated people, because we're talking about the humanity of it. So we always use the word people and not identify by their status. But I'm an abolitionist. The prisons need to go. Not there are too many people there. We need to soften them up a little bit. They need to go and start fresh, because this system is punitive, it's militarized, and we don't see a way to change it. The last form of abolition, are there any police abolitionists here? Well, you got to have the police, because who's gonna round up all the dangerous people? So you're police abolitionists? What's your take?
Well, like your argument about prisons, the system isn't working. And so we're doing sweeps of people and not focused on people who actually committed the crime.
Yeah, and we're, yeah.
maybe deconstruct, reconstruct better.
We've been saying defund, and it's amazing. The Republicans have fallen all over themselves about defunding the police. They've defunded education, they've defunded healthcare, they defunded housing, but defund the police? Oh my God. But I'm bringing this up now because when we were talking about the main issue, that's what I'd like to sort of segue from police abolition, because we have a real situation on our hands, and we have some people who are here to share about that. Most of us, when we think about what we were doing this past December 6th, we were probably starting to think about the holidays, about gifts, decorations. You know, almost all the holidays all fell at around the same time. So no matter what your faith was, there was something going on, thinking about peace, getting together, family. Well, on December 6th, our guests here lost their son at the hands of the Manchester police in a very bad police shooting with no justifiable facts that we're able to find. So I am honored to have with us today the Terrain family, Enoch, the father of McKinley Terrain, and Wilda Terrain, the mother of McKinley Terrain. And I was hoping that when we finish, that you all will get to. Would you mind standing up? Yes, so people can see him. We're so honored that you're here. We've had a campaign. You can sit down if you want to, or you can stay there. We have a campaign being led by Ophelia Burnett, our healing justice advocate in New Hampshire, and we have been taking a lot of support actions, and we'll be continuing to do it. And so part of that has been meeting with the family. We recently had a protest outside of the Board of Aldermen meeting, and during the public comment section, the Wilda spoke, Ophelia spoke, community supporters spoke, and we basically put the cards on the table for the local government to do something about this investigation. And our question is, why haven't they released the videotapes? Why, if the investigation is still ongoing, why is it that the police have been returned to the street? Normally the practice is they stay on internal desk duty until they're cleared of whether they committed a crime or not. They've just been let out without any hearings or any charges or any investigation. So it's ongoing. We would like you to consider, if you're an individual, to sign up to support them. If you're part of an organization, think about signing on. Our ask is very simple. We have, why don't you pass them up? Our ask is simple. We're saying, will you sign on for a call for justice, accountability, and a full investigation? That's all we're asking for now. Can anybody see that as something you could support? Anybody here could support justice, accountability, and a full investigation? So we hope you'll sign on to get more information. We'll be there every month at the city council hearing. There'll be other events. Enoch, where do you all live? You're not in Manchester. Where are you? And where are your other family members? So we're looking to organize some actions here because most of the family is here, and Boston has provided a lot of support in other cases where we've had families that were in Boston. We had shootings in Westchester County, and the families came from Boston to Westchester County, and we had actions here in support as well. So please feel free to introduce yourselves at some point in time and just learn more about the situation. Yeah. So I think that's it. Yeah.
You should leave some of the material on the table.
Oh, okay.
Because,
Okay.
some of the people in church might be interested. And the groups.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, King, and thank you for being with us tonight. Yeah. So, as part of what you said, as part of galvanizing us to support you, I I saw a lot of activism, advocacy, allyship. Peyton, going to turn the question to you in this moment we're in. What do you identify with, or is it all of it, and how do you hold space for all of it, or some of it, or one of it, or none of it? You know, peace builder, advocate, activist. Yeah, where do you sit on that spectrum, and how do you hold space for it?
Wow, what a question. Thank you, King, for taking this opportunity to, what a perfect opportunity to move forth with advocating for justice. We're here today to learn about social justice, and what better time than right now to meet folks face to face, because in my little bubble, in our little bubbles, like, either you don't know, you don't experience, and that's a tremendous privilege, and it's a mission we must go on, to push ourselves outside of what we know and realize that, okay, what we may not know or may not experience doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing anything. Because, again, touching back onto that point of humanity, of basic humanity, when injustice occurs, one cannot help but feel moved, feel emotional, and let's keep that movement forward. But regardless, I think thinking about social justice as a spectrum is actually something I've never really considered before, because I've kind of been showing up in the different places that I am, whether it be at work or in my home state, which is also actually New Hampshire. Yeah, New Hampshire. A lot of work to be done, but a lot of beyond incredible people there that need to do it. And I guess on that note, as a young person, I always wanted to get out of New Hampshire, go to the big city, and do all this amazing justice work in these organizations. But I am going to school in Massachusetts right now, but New Hampshire needs the people. New Hampshire has vibrant communities, queer communities, communities of color, restorative justice communities that are getting people, that are improving lives in New Hampshire, but we need people to stay. New Hampshire is I believe the second most rapidly aging state in the nation. And as much as I want to go travel the world, New Hampshire needs the work now more than ever, really. But I think I've kind of stumbled a little bit into the role of organizer, definitely. And I do have kind of at my school, because I'm a non-traditional student, I'm a little older, I kind of have more life experience. It is a little bit alarming to realize oh, everybody just finished high school last year. Huh. Goodness, sweet goodness. But everybody's wonderful. But being able to, like I said earlier, be confident to know that I'm able to make change and I can make change, and not being afraid to push, to move forward, to, I guess, inform people and to gather people, and to not make assumptions about what people may or may not want to do, may or may not think. And I love to talk, so I think something about organizing is spreading the word, giving the good news and the bad news. Because if people aren't, like I had kind of touched on, in America, everything is so sanitized. You could be on social media and have no idea what's happening across the world or what's happening in the state that you live in. So breaking the bad news, lighting a fire under people's butts a little bit, rallying people forth, because like I said, when you're faced with injustice, one cannot help but feel something, feel touched by it in a, maybe a negative way, but organizing in the sense of informing. I'm a writer, I love to write, and I think a great intersection with peace and justice and the English, my double major, is writing, is helping tell people's stories, is taking the academics that I know or the academic material that I'm learning and kind of putting it in a modern perspective, I guess, or like a semi 21st century kind of real life place that I'm witnessing every day walking around, and just talking, just telling people what's going on, maybe bothering them a little bit, sure, but it's for the better, because if people don't know, nothing will be done. And I guess another kind of point is letting people know that they're not helpless, that the billionaire class, it's hard when the administration that's in charge, these few people, these incredibly, God, don't even get me, like oppressive bodies that only want from themselves and do not want to better lives of others. They are the minority. We are the majority against them. And in terms of labor, like the biggest, I guess, like class transcends everything. Almost like we are all not upper class. We are all in solidarity together, having to work, to sell our labor, to make profit, to live for our livelihoods. And that, in a sense, having to do that, which we do, is a form of oppression right there. But informing people and letting them into that reality of how that system works, and that they are part of it, and that they are, in a way, a cog in the wheel, like you were saying. But let's kind of there's so many of us, like I said, that if we stop, the system will slow down. We're together, and it's just a matter of mobilizing people. So I think getting people agitated is what I've been, and learning through nonviolent direct action how to take different methods of getting people together and agitating the system in a way that makes it not work as well as it is. So I guess semi-agitator, organizer, communicator.
Well, I think of myself as a networker. Definitely always seeking to build the bridges and make the connections. And, oh, did you know that she's doing something that could really help you? So networking, I think, is a strength that I bring. And training, breaking down complex ideas into good, things that are comprehensible to the second graders, and certainly sharing the experiences of, if you're going to do civil disobedience, you better learn, you better prepare, for these types of situations, because any of these might come up. Suddenly you're facing, 20 days, in a different state instead of the 2 hours you thought you were going to do. Trying to, think about how to connect people, and how to connect lessons from different times to the present is kind of what I bring.
Thank you, Loie. Well, I'll answer that, and then I'll start to wrap us up. Peace builder, advocate, activist, I feel like I wear all those hats. I'll say different times, different parts of those words pop up more than others. And I think the biggest thing that I've become right now in this moment as the executive director of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom is a convener. I find that that is the power that I can hold in this role by convening different voices and perspectives and people in community. So I'm committed to continuing to do that, to build community where we can all come together and mobilize and lift each other up. And with that said, I want to invite you. Normally I'd open up to Q&A, but we did say we'd be here for 90 minutes. So instead, I want to invite you, if you don't have to rush off, to stay behind for a little bit, check in with each other. How are you doing as a human? Did something resonate a lot with you today in this fireside chat that we had? And what tips or tricks do you have to share with each other to sort of get through these times and through this movement and this moment? I want to say thank you so much to each and every one of you on this panel, King, Peyton, Loie, every single one of you. I know that life demands so much of you, so thank you for coming, not just for this 90 minutes, but for the hour that I know it took you to get here and the hour that I know it's going to take you to get home, this is the biggest gift you could give us. I know King's got some documents to share with you if you want to sign up to support this to support our friends who joined us. I'm going to put some literature out about WILPF near the food because that's where you're probably going to congregate. And I guess I'll just close, in addition to saying thank you, take care of yourselves so we can take care of each other. Thank you so much in the room. Thank you so much in Zoom. Take care. Oh.
No, I wanted to give thanks to our tech person. Those are the people who make everything happen. For the people who are away, the people who are here. The sound was great. What's your name? Omar. Make some noise for Omar.
Thank you. Have a good night.